Are you really enjoying what you read, or do you find yourself opening a book and thinking immediately which is going to be the next book that you read? This is what happened to me. I've always loved reading. There's been this passion that my dad passed to me. I remember him reading every evening since I was a child, and I just found so much joy in reading. There's this level of feeling fulfilled, alive, when you find a book that you are truly passionate about. For a while in my life, I stopped reading, and I kind of felt that everything was a little bit less alive. There's that element that only books can bring for me, and one of the reasons why I created BookTube was to start reading more. And actually I made it. I started with these different reading challenges that Goodreads have, and from barely 2-3 books per year I went to 30, then to 60, to 80, to 100. But last year this aim to read more and more almost destroyed me, and I needed to take a break from all of it. So I'm here to talk about a little bit that quality over quantity, and how I fixed my relationship with books, and how I'm really enjoying what I read right now. And let's go back to last year. And granted, there's a little bit of that sense of wanting to read more for the sake of, I have a BookTube channel and I have this ownership of, I want to discover new books, then to show them to you. And there's that level of wanting to read wherever it's out there to get them back to you. However, life happens last year. I had more work, I got engaged, I needed to plan my wedding in 3 months, and everything was very overwhelming. And reading for the first time passed from being one of those great escapes and joy of my life to being really overwhelming, really stressful, and it really ruined me. I remember coming back after work every night and trying to read, and almost forcing me to read, and I couldn't. I was super tired, and I felt frustrated with myself. I saw how this unachievable Goodreads challenge was growing and growing, and how these "you are 15 books behind," that was something that I will never ever forget. And yes, I could have changed my reading goal from that. That's not the point. The point is how I felt completely overwhelmed, and how I cried trying to cope with the situation and trying to surpass it. And above all of it, I was feeling like I was not making it cut. The identity of me as a reader was not there, because I was not able to read as much, or not for a lot of time, which is what I wanted to do this video, because I in that moment needed to take a break from YouTube, from reading. And I believe I've changed that, and I want you to reflect about quantity over quality, and hopefully encouraging a slower, more meaningful way of reading, and how this has completely changed my life. But first, how did we even get here? In my case, I was constantly bombarded. I still am, about the recommendations. BookTube in itself is one of those sources that are infinite sources of read more. These are the must reads, the books release. We have way more visibility of them, and I had this feeling as well that some series or books have a certain momentum, and that if you don't read them at that point, you're kind of losing the conversations that are happening, not just if you are a booktuber, but also with the fandom, with the community. For example, I felt this last year with the Stormlight Archive. The amount of happiness actually that I found rereading the books and discussing things over at Reddit and figuring out stuff was incredible. This year it feels like now is the moment to read Dungeon Crawler Carl if you're on the fantasy world, right? And there is a lot of conversations happening, and I wanted to be part of them. That was part of what I was counting, and really kind of stressed me as well. There were these incredible books, Empire of Silence, that I needed to read at the worst moment, and I just felt that I couldn't. Also, I really believe that our attention span as a society has decreased a little bit. Not necessarily your case, but as a whole, I feel this, and it's something that I've seen in myself, that I'm way more on consuming rather than enjoying. And that level of consuming books, and our identity being, I've read these many books and I've consumed these content, it's part of what we are becoming right now, instead of focusing on how we enjoy what we read, how we really invest in this deep reading phase that enhances empathy, critical thinking, and comprehension. And that for me was one of the reasons why I was scared about starting big, chunky books. There are some, such as Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, that have been on my TBR for ages, and I wanted to read them, and I started to. And I was like, I cannot do this because it's a book that screams, read me slowly. And I wanted to read. I knew I was behind, and I needed to keep moving forward. And looking back to it, it's so bad that I was in that point. I finally read it this year, and it has been one of the best books that I've read. It's absolutely outstanding, great standalone, 5-star read. Susanna Clarke does not miss. But back then I kept thinking how my dad makes it, because he's always been a reader and he has this massive library and he has a lot of books, but he reads slowly. He has no issue about it. He doesn't even know how many books he reads every year or every month. Like, he does not care, and he's not scared about owning books. He does not feel this pressure of reading, otherwise life will escape you. He always said to me that he has way more books that he could ever read, but that there is no book that he has ever bought that he would not want to read, and that he wants it there in case he wants to pick them up. And I think that's a beautiful concept, and I've always kind of lived through that moment. It was really a cognitive dissonance for me. Like, how can I be so stressed, and then how can this person that it's a pillar in my life be like so chilled about it? And I just exploded. Took a break and distanced myself a little bit from reading. But what did I do from this point, and how do I fix it? And this is what I want to bring into the conversation in case you're finding yourself in that spot. First, what I read, it's the most unhinged, funny, terribly written series that I've probably read in my life. And no, I'm not gonna discuss it because it was something that I did just for the fact of enjoying what I was reading. There were zero expectations from me. I knew this was bad, but it was so much fun. I enjoyed it. The fact of reading the proper story for me was like a 2, a 3 if I need to give it a rating, but it's not necessarily, that was not the point. For me, it was a playful thing to do, to get back to reading from a perspective of almost feeling like a child and discovering series or books just for the sake of reading, not necessarily because I had all of this pressure to find the best books for you or to read the most in order to become at this standard of a booktuber. It was also a very important moment for me because I kind of like discovered that I'm not disappointing you if I'm not reading a lot of books, but the fact that I'm enjoying and that I still have passion for reading is the key element that hopefully I'm able to share and that you're able to get when you see these videos. And that my content did not necessarily need to live only due to the books that I read. There were more ways of doing content, and that was freeing. The second thing is that I became an explorer. I'm now like an Indiana Jones of books. I have this mission not of reading more, but on finding the best books that I can for me without getting obsessed or frustrated or having a lot of expectations beforehand. But I do invest a lot of time now researching, listening, watching booktube, discovering different booktubers, sharing their books, sharing their passion, going to see the reviews, seeing what is happening and seeing especially how that makes me feel, which makes me way more excited about a book. And I find this incredibly powerful because I'm a mood reader, but I also like to plan things that I read. So there's that balance that I need to obtain, and the fact that I'm really excited about a book just for the fact of reading it and discovering the story, it's something very powerful to me. Even if the story does not end up to be one of my favorites, just I feel that I'm doing something that I really wanted to do, like what I want to do and what I'm doing, it's aligned. Then also one thing that I've changed is that I started to understand goals differently. I still have a yearly goal for how many books I want to read, but I settled them at a level that I felt very comfortable with, and I'm not even understanding them as in I want these books because I want the number, but I want to enjoy the books that I'm reading. That's kind of like the meta goal that I'm setting for myself. And also this year I've challenged myself to read differently. And I found this to be such a differential point, because I'm not only reading whatever comes up, or I don't feel that FOMO really anymore. I'm challenging myself to read books out of my comfort zone. I read classic books such as The Worm Ouroboros, which is a book that was published in the 1920s, and it blew my mind. Not necessarily that it was a favorite, but the fact that I read something that was published so long ago and how it transformed fantasy, it really blew my mind. The same goes with weird books such as Titus Grown, which I cannot say that I loved it or that it was my cup of tea, but I'm incredibly proud of reading it because I wanted to know what it was and which were the vibes. Also a book that was published in the 1940s, so it blew my mind. I'm reading more also on strange books that defy the logic, more ergodic literature in which the format of what you're reading impacts or has an impact on the proper story. And also I'm leaning more into sci-fi as well. So just reading differently, it's a goal on itself, expanding through different authors. It's being a different challenge on itself, and I love it because I feel like a little explorer on a quest, and I don't know where it will lead me, but just the fact that I am trying this quest is generating so much happiness. Very importantly, I also made peace with chunky books and finally developed the mental state in order to approach them. Now, long fantasy books, it's one of the greatest joys of fantasy, and I think they're fantastic. Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell was a hit. Wheel of Time, each book that I'm reading, it's like 800 pages long, the minimum, and I'm really enjoying it. Before, I was scared. I was pressured to finish these massive behemoths as soon as I can, and now what I feel is that I'm just enjoying the process. I'm starting to track how many pages I read whenever I can, not for the fact of reading more, but because I want to celebrate the fact that I am creating a space for something that I want to do, which is reading. And I just the fact of savoring the pages, even if it's just one, for me it's an achievement, it's a success, and I am loving how this is turning into my reading habits. And although really I'm still very obsessed about books, and there's a point in which I can see that I can get quickly into I want 5-star reads, or I won't read anything, or get frustrated about that because that happened in the past. The way in which I'm approaching books now and reading, it's more on a reflective, slower pace in which I'm allowing myself to comprehend better, to really read differently, not feeling this rush of I'm missing out on different things, and just get excited about what I read and when I read, which in essence is turning into this quest of finding books that are making me feel alive, either because they're changing what I read, are expanding what I read, make me feel more smart, better, well read, or exploring different genres, or finding books that I really connect with. But the journey has completely changed. I cannot say that I'm destroyed or ruined anymore. I don't need that break from reading, and actually I wanted to do so I will just stop filming. Let me know what are your thoughts on this topic, because obviously this is not for everyone. This is of course not a critic if you read a lot of books. I think that's fantastic if that's your thing, and the escapism of it, it's reading and enjoying. If you can read a lot and enjoy a lot, that's fantastic, but just remember to take a step back and realize if you're enjoying what you're reading, and if you're really savoring this experience, if it is making you grow, and if it's adding something to your life. And if that's the case, let me know down below which are those books that make you feel alive, because we all need those types of books now more than ever. Thank you so much to my Patreons for your support. All your names are in the description. If you want to join us, we have a book club, reading sprints, we have a Wheel of Time read along, cozy game nights. So we are a very cozy community in which we talk one-on-one. So join us if you will. See you soon.